The world of college sports is obviously very big business. The NCAA brings in billions of dollars every year. Of course, now some student athletes are able to cash in too because of the name, image, and likeness deals that you've heard so much about, the NILs. Open Doors tracks the new industry. That company reports D1 athletes are making more than $500 off endorsement deals. That's on average right now. But of course, some players are making a whole lot more. According to the sports news site The Athletic, a top quarterback recruit in the class of 23 signed a deal that could pay him more than $8 million by the end of his junior year.
Recognize a ranking member for 5 minutes of questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Salamone, as you wrote in your testimony, many booster collectives tend to steer NIL deals primarily to male college athletes. Could you confirm for us whether this distribution is proportionate among men and women?
I would say that primarily the collectives are steering money towards football athletes over every other sport. And so that is disproportionately male as compared to female. I had someone explain a collective to me in, I thought, a very good way, and it was described as a fan club, and that these collectives basically operate at the behest of the coaches to direct funds to specific players that they sort of identify.
This is happening because booster collectives aren't regulated by Title IX, correct?
In part, I think that the collectives came about as a result of schools not wanting to deal with the funds because they were concerned about having to comply with Title IX, and this is sort of a workaround. I think the relationship is so closely knit at this point that Title IX should apply to collective funds.
So would you agree that booster collectives who coordinate closely with their school ought to be considered extensions of their school outright, and therefore subject to Title IX regulations?
Yes, collectives at this point effectively are extensions of the schools.
Ms. Salamone, some stakeholders worry that the predominance of social media influencing deals in the NIL market for women college athletes is incentivizing them to post suggestive content.
So I think that this is maybe a greater societal issue. I know that there are certainly athletes. It is an issue with female athletes feeling pressure to post certain types of posts that might gain more attention. I think that what that comes down to is a greater need for messaging around that and conversations with female athletes in particular about, I think, staying authentic, doing things that make you feel comfortable, not feeling pressured by an agent or anybody else. There are a lot of social media branding specialists that are encouraging athletes to do all sorts of things in social media. And I think it is becoming a pressure. And I think that schools should step in and kind of remind athletes that they should not feel added pressure to do those things. But again, I think females in society on social media feel the same pressure. I don't think that it's unique to female athletes at this point. So that's maybe a greater debate about whether we feel comfortable with, I think, the pressures on women in general to post certain posts on social media if that's not what they're comfortable with.
So race and sexual orientation play immense roles in this dynamic, as I see it. If there is a correlation between successful female NIL earners and more traditional race and sexual orientation identification.
So I think what you're asking is are they feeling pressured because they see the success of other people making money on social media? Certainly. And again, I will go back to, I think that's a greater pressure that content creators in general feel when they see things that are working for other content creators. And I think it goes back to athletes needing to be reminded to stay true to themselves, not to feel the pressure, to focus on their sports. But they're going to feel it. They're part of this new generation. They grew up in the social media world. It is a reality. They have a different mindset than we do when it comes to that. And so that has to be taken into consideration. But certainly I think that when anybody sees what someone else is doing as being successful, they're inclined to want to copy that.